Welcome back to Cheche, live on Citizen TV. Our guest this morning is the man picked to deputize for Paul Mwite of the Safina Party. And there's a question from you, going back on matters of integrity, from James of Kampala. Can you tell us how you came to own the African Regional Center for Computing? Word has it that this was a project financed by donors and was meant to create a center within the university's Institute of Computer Science, through which the internet was to be introduced in Kenya. And so therefore, you should have registered this with the University of Nairobi, and something about when this was discovered, you had to leave the university.
Thanks, James, for raising that point, because it gives me a chance to share a bit of the
very quickly, though, because we're running out of time.
Yeah, I must mention from the onset that the African Regional Center for Computing had nothing completely to do with the University of Nairobi. As a matter of fact, when internet came in, I had to do it from one of my bedrooms. At the time, I was a lecturer, senior lecturer at the University of Nairobi, indeed, at the Institute of Computer Science. I have to confess, and actually that's my next book, that the university administration at the time didn't give me a lot of support. Indeed, the director of the institute then would find me at night fiddling with wires, trying to get internet to work. And those who may recall, then we never had the live internet we have today. We used to poll London once every night, Greenet. We would poll it every Wednesday night, pick messages for Kenya, then people would dial our server to pick the messages. And the server was in my bedroom. It had to be in my bedroom because I was earning only then about 2,000 shillings, you know, after deductions from tuna loans and so on. So I didn't have enough to pay even for the phone bills. But the university was not supporting. So when my boss would find me working late at night trying to get this thing to work, he would add me more loads because, in his words, I was idle. So I was idle, that's why I was not going home early. But anyway, so eventually I had to move this facility to do it at home. Eventually I realized I couldn't do it one person. I was the only person providing internet in Kenya then. So I would do a little bit of wiring, send the bills out. It was necessary to have an organization, hence the ARCC.
Okay. As an IT savvy, political leader, in fact, probably the most sophisticated, technologically in the rest, what would be the substance or influence of ICT in the development of this country? And wouldn't that be really Safina's drive, knowing where you come from?
Digitized Kenya.
Absolutely. And this is why running across board, of course, we know agriculture is the mainstay of the Kenyan economy. Even agriculture, of course, one major thing that we have committed to do as Safina and in our manifesto is that for every shilling spent on road construction, you would spend 2 in rainwater harvesting. But in addition, we'll have agriculture mechanized so that you get the most. And we would have local processing of products so that we don't export raw materials. But the same cuts across board. Whether you're talking of health, education, we would use modern state-of-the-art that's affordable and is appropriate to make sure we deliver education and health services.
Well, you in your manifesto, you have stated that you're going to spend 40% of the budget in recurrent and 60% on development.
Correct.
Which is opposite to what is happening now. How do you expect to do that?
The main problem now is we spend about 80% of the budget on recurrent, on salaries, even including on ghost workers. Yeah. I would hesitant to say that we would sack people. The first thing that we would do, our policy would be first, if there's the cake that's small, try to expand the cake to justify everybody who is in government, okay? But if it becomes necessary to make some people redundant for their own good, and we would explain to them that's for their own good that would happen, so that the pay bill comes down, so that much more of the money, 60% is used in development budget.
The Constitution is silent on the role of a vice president. What do you think it should be? How would you define deputy president rather? Yes. Sorry. How would you define that role for yourself if Safina were to win?
The role of the deputy president is actually defined, maybe not to any great detail, but obviously it's the second in command to the president. And unlike in the past when he or she, I'm saying he because we haven't had a she, was vice president, it was at the pleasure of the president. In this particular case, actually, people will not just be voting for the president. they will actually be voting for the presidency, for the team, the president and his or her running mate. So yes, he will be deputizing the president, and when the president is not there, he will be the acting president.
Shem, let's talk about ICT in this country. I mean, e-governance.
Right.
There is a lot of hype, and you, where you sit and looking for political leadership, what should ICT be doing to this country and transform it and to make us more efficient, more sophisticated? I mean, people talk about Konza City, Technology City, and all these things. Is it just an elite discussion, or is it going to boil down to real benefits to Kenyans? Really, where are we?
I think one major challenge that those in charge of ICT in this country have had is not aligned. Well, first of all, we don't have a master plan. We have a good strategy, good policy, but no master plan. I've been making noise about an ICT master plan. Secondly, some people have been saying maybe Konza City is too ambitious. I say it's actually unambitious. We should be having a Konza City in every county. So Safina would be looking at having them in all the 47 counties. But in addition, Safina will bring the technology to be useful to the people. And I was using M-Pesa just as an example. M-Shwari is another that's emerging. We have even M-Kura that the G47, our partner, has been working on with the other parties, where why should a Kenyan go to queue for 2 hours to cast a vote when you could sambaza it? And we have that solution today in Kenya. So what the major thing Safina will do would be, let's bring the technology to the people so that it makes sense to them.
You talked about coalitions earlier. Would you consider, should you win, and several of our viewers believe that you have what it takes, but you're not a popular team? That's a sentiment from Wanjiko in Nakuru, and several viewers think that way. But should you win, would you, consider a post-election coalition?
Well, I think realistically we would, and I would want to encourage Wanjiku to be one more vote, makes you more popular for every vote you get. And I would want to encourage her to back us and help us to pass the message. We do know that we start as underdogs, but the story of Goliath and David. So anything.
Even Muhammad Diba, he thinks he's another David.
Thank you. Yes,
you also think you are David.
I wouldn't underrate it. By the way, I should say that Safina demonstrated something very interesting in the recent times. Whereas the other 6 candidates were happy to go into a presidential debate without Safina and Dida. When Safina came on board, they said, okay, let it be also Mwite and Dida. Among the 6, there was no brother's keeper. Safina, I'm sure if Honorable Mwite was one of them, he would have said in principle, as he has done for the time he's been in politics, that not without my brothers or sisters. But that be as it may, yes, we would be prepared for a coalition, depending on, and particularly would try to look for parties that are ideologically close to us. For now, as I said, none is really close. But the reality, pragmatism would prevail.
I mean, that is double speak. You say that now there is no party you have found or coalition that really approximates what you guys hold, your ideals. But how will then they become more attractive after the election? Isn't that a political hypocrisy we are used to? Now they are not, but after elections you'll be amenable to a coalition? I didn't
say, David, that we would find them attractive. No. But
you're invoking political expedience, though.
Yeah, that is it.
I should say, now that you mentioned that, Professor Juan says the 3 major problems of Kenya are mediocrity, ethnic
bigotry,
bigotry, and political expediency. Yeah, yes. and that's really true. Yeah. But in this particular case, you can also there is also realism and pragmatism that comes in. So it's a bit of measure. Indeed, even if all our MPs were elected, they would still be in a minority. So the reality is that if our president won, as we hope he will, he would need to reach out to others. And at any rate, the Constitution, Article 10, talks about Kenya being inclusivity is one of the things. We would want to bring on the others. If we are the ones on the driving seat, we'd get them to tag along.
Okay, we're running out of time. I want your opinion.
Tell us how you are financing your campaign.
That's a good question. Good Kenyans are coming in. We are not as liquid as others are, and this is why we are calling upon volunteers to help. And I would want to encourage every Kenyan, including Teginjao, to help us spread this message like you're already doing.
Okay. Mutegi, your opinion. We're out of time. We have to close the show. What do you think? Does Safina stand a chance?
Zero.
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 David?
Well, to be honest, I think people like Dr. Ochuodho are really an asset to this country. And it's unfortunate that they should be cast against people, and in an election like this, I honestly don't think they have a chance. I would think that they would be useful joining potential winners so that they can bring the change they desire through that mechanism of cooperation or partnership somehow. Because really, my last question to Shem is, so what if you lose? You've been out of the public sphere, government, and your resource is required in this country. Is there a way you're going to find your, your way into government?
So that you can do what you've been doing
These things
in Rwanda?
We hope so. But what you were also asking, David, we did ourselves ask, do we join them? There's this say that if you can't beat them, join them. But we said, well, for now, it would, because we have seen people join, let me call them the people, the anti-reformers. Mm-hmm. But then, as soon as they join, they become the same, maybe even worse. So we said, no, we're not going to play that game. We'll offer ourselves. Hopefully, Kenyans of goodwill would vote for us. But yes, if, as I've said before, if we don't win, we will look at the options on the table and decide accordingly.
Your last word?
My last one is to request Kenyans to consider Mwite, particularly on his track record, to bring about accountability and transparency in government, and we'll also use technology to ensure that that transparency is ingrained.
Dr. Shem Ochuodho, thank you very much. That's where Cheche ends this week. Our thanks to you, and the best of luck to you and your presidential candidate, the Safina presidential flag bearer, Paul Mwite. And we look forward to seeing you all at the next presidential debate on February 25th. I'm Udwa Kamimo. Thank you for your time. Our thanks also to panelists Mutegi Njau and David Makali. Enjoy the rest of your week.